marriage breaks up. But when you talk about it, and then you will have that understanding with each other to say, okay, can we make it work? With that, what do you think? You know, do you still want to go along with this? Do you agree? Do you love me? And those are the reality conversation that you must have, so you can have a closure. Because if not, when you don't talk about it, you'll always try to hit out and do things because there's something that is not settled in your heart, and you continuously do that. And there's no trust. So trust is very important in every marriage. Trust is very important.
Yeah, because the trust comes when the relationship is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the relationship, as we said before so many times, we talk on the communication.
Yeah.
A lot of marriage can be resolved. Marriage problem can be resolved when we are able to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until there's a negotiation, there's a talking, there's a communication, there's speaking, then you can settle. Because if there's no talking, I mean, we are in a world that is very fast, very busy, not like before that we have a lot of time, in our hands. But now the world really changes. And if we are not careful with our communication, and a lot of assumption will come. You are just assuming, or I'm thinking that you are doing this. I'm thinking. But as you said, the more that we talk and communicate, the more that we can address issues. Before it's there's a line that normally we cross that there is no turning back. And it takes people that they have a good communicator that they can resolve when they cross that line. And a lot of problem today, problem with those that are working, problem in the village, problem to those that are going overseas, one spouse overseas 1 year. Everywhere we having this problem with the relationship.
Because you cannot control.
Yes.
Or stop. Say like for couples that are
separated.
They here we have the NAC and we have the seasonal workers, not taking their families with them. You cannot, like the wives here or the husbands here, cannot control who they see and who they talk to. You cannot control them. But if they have the trust with each other, then that trust, should be able to make the other one convicted, or each of them convicted, that they are married. There are certain things that you don't cross the line with any other opposite sex, because it's a trust that you have with each other. And most of those trusts are broken, and you have a lot of betrayal in a lot of marriages that make them do the things that they do.
And because of the betrayal, there comes anger, wrath, and we do things that we cannot even imagine when things are normal. Leaving their family, leaving their children, and go out. Those things you never imagine that anybody can do it. But because of the anger
and the resentment.
So something that we must remember, that anger is in everybody's soul, spirit, and body. If you cannot control or manage anger, it's very, very dangerous. And it's becoming an issue in day-to-day life, and causing a lot of pain and even loss of life because of people cannot control anger.
Anger goes a long way, because it's not only for relationship, it's just you as an individual. For you to manage your anger well. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't get angry." No, every person, when you're struck with the wrong side, well, you just react with that anger and resentment. Some things that have been boiling up and kept in your heart, and one small thing, that thing come out. So you need to manage that anger well, because if you don't, then you will be very abusive. You'll abuse your children, you will abuse your husband or your wife. You will be very abusive, or abuse the people in your office. Abuse in not maybe in the physical, but verbal. So you are very abusive because of you cannot control your anger. You cannot manage your anger well.
That anger comes when you are not satisfied, or when you are hurt, or something is not resolved. very important.
Yeah.
You said before that to resolve it,
Yeah.
come together and talk. Because if not, that anger remains.
Yeah.
It's like a raw cut, and if exposed to wrong environment situation,
Yeah.
and that anger, that hurt comes
Yeah.
again. And there's a saying says, for those that are hurt, they will love to hurt other people, you know, because they are not hurt, they are not satisfied.
Yeah.
They carry hurt all the time, and they love to hurt other people because they are in the anger mode. They can cover it well,
Yeah.
but it's always there and can come out anytime.
Yeah, one thing about anger, when you don't control it, it will push you to do something until you feel satisfied. And most of the things that you do until you're satisfied, they are very destructive
Yeah.
and can be fatal. Because you are doing something to satisfy the inner anger
Yeah.
that you have that nobody else can understand. And for us who go to church, we can look at it in a spiritual element. It can be, it's an evil spirit that allows that or use that to separate families, to bring so much abuse at home. All those things that happen. So as husband and wife, maybe like for us, we've got grandchildren, and there are issues that we talk about. It's amazing because we had our dinner out with our family on our anniversary, and that was on the 1st of November. It was
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And we all went out as a family. And just sitting there looking at, my grandchildren, looking at my whole family, which I shared in our devotion the day after. And I was looking at Joshua. Joshua is 18 years old. And I kept looking at Joshua and I said to myself, when I was Joshua's age, I was married when I was Joshua's age. And because I started work when I was 16 years old, I got married when I was 18. And I bought our car soon after we got married. And I was looking at his age, he was talking around, because he's still in school, he's in year 13. Talking around as a normal 18-year-old. And I was looking and I said, that was me, in the beginning of his 39 years of being married. And lives change, lives are different. When I look back, there seemed to be more maturity before than now. Now, if you look at the same age, hardly anybody is matured enough to look after their family. Maybe then there were not too many distractions. Life, and I always base it back because I serve God. Sharing it last Sunday in our church because of the Word of God. Like it gives me that boldness, that confidence, even though my age was not a defining moment. My life was, and what I believe. And when I got married when I was 18, I know exactly what I was getting myself into. I never go back home or ask for anything. I stood up and I look after my family. And not because of what I was earning or of who I am, but of the stronger faith that I have in the Word of God. And that goes to you that are listening to me. When you fill yourself up with the Word of God, whatever denomination you were in, whatever, wherever you are, it helps you with your marriage. It helps you with the way that you carry your life.
Maturity,
And that maturity. So, and he was 22 then when we got married. I was matured beyond my age because he still goes out. I'm sharing this because it may be happening to your marriage. He still goes out like he's not married. He does his rugby. He goes to the Matavito Kani, which we call the MYF for Methodist Church in Fiji. And I was the mother with a child, and he was the young man with no commitment. Even though he helps with finances, but life that he was living was not matured enough to be a father. And I'm sharing this because you may be going through the same. And sometimes we don't want to admit that we are that. Or as long as I'm bring money in, be grateful you have a roof above your head and I'm putting food on the table. You say those things to justify your absenteeism from home, or you're not taking on your responsibility as a father. So whatever explanation that you may have, whatever that you do, you're always not admitting to the fact that there are responsibility that comes with marriage. And when that responsibility is not met, the scale tipped on the other side, And like what I said, if you're a faithful person, or if you are, grounded with the Word of God like I was, with everything that was happening, I was oblivious to the fact whatever was happening. It didn't shake me. It didn't disturb me. There wasn't a time for me to stop him from doing what he's doing. He brings his friends home. He does whatever that he does. I help him. I support him. But I was strong in my faith that I continuously pray that one day he will change. And you may be the woman listening to me today that tried doing what I'm doing. But some of us women, we couldn't care less. When it doesn't work, husband is not committed, or still hanging out with his friends, and then you stand up and you say, okay, this is not for me. I don't need this, and you walk the other way. So a lot of marriage breakup stems back to the fact of the two individuals that have said to themselves, okay, we are ready to start a family. And also for those of you that are listening and not married yet, don't rush into marriage. Think it out, because marriage comes with a responsibility. Not until you know you're ready to give in your portion of responsibility, then you say to yourself that I'm ready to get married. Because if not, then you become the extra child that your wife doesn't need. Because you become the extra person to be looked after, other than being the extra hand to help with the family. And these are the little things that cause a lot of fights and cause a lot of differences. Like if I have chose to speak up my right, or to fight for what I want, I don't believe that we are sitting here today, because I will stand up and go. I don't need this, and I have every right to do that, like what any woman that are listening to me today. But I didn't, because I had faith, and my life was based in faith, and I must acknowledge my parents, and that goes back to the to our role as parents now, to our children. Because most marriages, they just reflect back to how their parents' marriage was. So if they see their father beating up or abusing their mother, or if they see their father verbally abusing their mother, or just swearing and kicking, and the way that they treat their mothers, they will go into their marriage thinking that that is correct. So without any blame on themselves, or without any knowledge, or without any correction to the way that they see things, they become the product of what they've been exposed to, and take exactly what they've seen and take it to their marriage. So if they get involved with a girl that comes from a faith a family, well looked after, but that girl is in to be abused, verbally abused, treated in that manner. Why? Because it's the only family setup that children have been exposed to. So maybe you are doing whatever you're doing to your wife,
or to your husband,
are doing whatever you're doing to your husband, because of the very thing that you saw or you witnessed happening in your home. And that is why, even though we're talking about relationship moving forward, we need to check the other way around. Like for us, we're sitting here as parents, as grandparents. Very important the way that we carry our lives. So when we sat there on that dinner, then we had my son's wife, family, and we have my daughter's family, and our eldest daughter, who I always share a lot that her marriages didn't really work. And we sat there and just talked about this relationship, it was a good forum and a good platform just to sit there and talk about how you manage all these things. Because it just come out at the rife of having this, headline in the papers on how that family was affected way back in 90, and how the wife or the mother of these 5 children witnessed having their mother died because of that. So we were talking and sharing on how to, to live your life, how to respect your partner, and how to understand things that are going, and how you treat each other. Because you have one and one coming together, and then I belong to a family, he belongs to a family, just like you. Which means when you come together, it's not, you're just not marrying each other and you live in a world of your own. No, your world involves his family and also her family. So the family members also, they are contributing factors to how your marriage works, whether it's going to work or whether it's not going to work. Because the influence that happens, in your family. So it really depends on your trust and your love and your discussion. You talk it over. Say if he comes and says, okay, my family's doing this, or they're having a function. I think we can do this, I think we can do that. So it becomes a conversation.
Conversation.
You talk about it until you agree. And if I come and I say, okay, like, because for us, he's the one that comes from family. I have a family too, but I'm not traditionally, connected or to do honors or the normal thing that normal Fijians do. Mine is weird. I don't do that. I've never had that. But his, yes. But even though I don't have it, or even though I don't practice it, even though I don't grow up in it, but when I got married to him, I learned all these things.
And we talk about it.
And then I have an open mind,
Yeah.
and we talk about it. And then, I will tell him, okay, what do you want done? Or what do you need to do? Or what can I, help with? And we discuss a lot of things, and then I help him. I don't fight for the fact to say, I don't have a family, I don't acknowledge families, or I don't have this kind of traditional things, so I'm not going to do that. No, we never have this kind of conversation. I will listen, and I know I've supported his family big time, and I looked after, and we were just sharing these things with our grandchildren this week. I looked after his mom. When she comes home, she's like a mother to me, then a mother-in-law. And all those things comes because we talk about it, and goes back to the fact that we love and trust each other.
For us men that we are watching this morning, when we start our relationship, like men thinking that the new family, like our family, the new family have to always committed to the side of men. And sometimes we disregard that we are married to a woman that comes from a family too.
As well. Yeah.
She have a father and a mother and brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So sometimes the influence from our relatives can determine how we look at our wife. We must remember that, because I go through that, because I come from a very extended family and we have a lot of songo and onga. I believe there's no weekend that is free. But just for me, I start to realize that there are some onga that you don't have to go. You will know, but you don't have to. You will just tell them you don't. And some onga, maybe you can send money, but there are only some onga that you need to go. And all those things we will discuss. As she said, she'll never stop us from going. But sometimes I will say, no, we don't go.
Yeah, he's the one that will say, no, don't give that money.
And even my relatives, they normally, they will call her. Instead of calling me, they will call her. We're having this. Are we supposed to give this? And they rather call her. Because I start to realize it will be very unfair that we are living all the way in Nandi and to come. And it's not because I'm not attached to tradition culture. It's just the way that you just need to work out. You just compare the fuel, the money, and the commitment. Because we hardly go to their onga. And they live on the individually. They living not like our tradition.
We don't have onga at all. We
and,
do, but we manage
it's
our
an influence from our relatives.
Yeah.
It's an influence. One thing that I was really blinded by. I really attached to my rugby, especially boys, married
Too
couple,
much rugby.
and those of us too much rugby. Playing, training, and watching. You go to Prince Charles Park too.
And team talk.
And then team talk will be nearly half day or you
Whole
late
night.
into the night. So all those things, they are factors of your relationship.
Yes.
Then, as he said, for us that we go to church, the Holy Spirit convicts you. Yung sa kilasan nga, o tingalan gito, kiko tali taga-tunong gito, o tsaran gito, lagi bali. Kaya baka ito na team talk, yung sa sulingan mo, $10, $20, sa lagi bali. Because you start to become responsible. Iliw siya nga, lago ng team talk, o tinatireni,
bakando
tao ko may vale, may tuy vale, o naman na ba kabi? O kito erto na liya, alam ko sumay, o to na to, timi, o doon na timi, at sinikali magkina-reserve. So all those things, we must take into consideration. Maybe at that time it works for us because of her character and because of her maturity and also because of our relationship and because we can afford at that time. But now, some of us, we don't afford those kind of things. And it's a burden on the family. Burden on the family. So these are some of the things that we went through May karukan to 39 years. Yeah. Nanggito na bibo karuay, nag-training na bisi nga. Yeah. I mean, training will be 2 to 3 hours. Kaya balik ito naman sa 5 oras na kaloko, plus 3 hours. Kaya sa 8 nga diwa. Kaya gito talaga karuay. Those are the influence from the workplace, from your friends.
Yeah.
Sangkay totally to, we can sala ko ilotu. Sangkay totally to, na numu connect na mo nilotu in your churches. O sangkay totally to, na numu puno ni dakadak. So those are most of the influential that affect your relationship.
Yeah, the factors. And I believe, it's quite common, the absent fathers from home. And that's one thing that I was sharing with my grandchildren, because they are, I could say, fatherless. They stay home with me. And last week, when everybody else were around the place in the field doing works, it has given us a real good raw talk with myself and my grandchildren in all our devotion. So it's just the 3 of them and me. And another time my daughter was in as well. And we really had that kind of good talk. And I was telling them, even though you're not with your daddy, you're not with your mommy, and you're staying with Nana. And sometimes you say to yourself, man, I miss that. I see that, I miss that. I don't have, I'm not staying with my mom and dad. Maybe you say that. But I want you to understand and know, there are some families that are together, but they're always absent. The father is always absent. The mother is like a family of absent father. It's, the family is complete. He's still a father. It's a complete family, but he's hardly at home. It's either, like just what I heard explained to us, it's either you spend out in the rugby field or doing other things, your social life. Some of you good because you bring them home, but some you join them. Just like when you have people at home and you bring them at home. Yeah. It's the same as one of those individuals away from their home. So, it's absent fathers. There's a lot of absent fathers. So the children at home, they don't hear counsel. They don't hear any advice. They don't hear any fatherly love or feel any fatherly love. They don't see any completion of full a family, a full father and mother or parental love. So with that missing, these children grow up with that missing father. So when they are now reacting or acting out and doing the things that they're doing, then you begin to say, man, how come this child is doing this? Because you think correctly, you're doing the correct things, but you're always away from home. The time for them to hear the counsel, they didn't hear. And the moment for them now to live it out, how can they live something that they never hear? How can they do something when they don't know? And we assumed that they should know. Just because you have lived your life and you have heard, you know. But the impartation of that knowledge and how to carry your lives is always lacking to be passed on to our children. And like what he's sharing with us today, like for our marriage, it was like that. I mean, he had his friends. He loves his rugby. And he hangs out. And yeah, he does that. And I share this a bit. I will never forget. I didn't realize the impact it had on my children until I heard my son spoke in his, I think it was his 16th birthday. And all along, when he was always away from home or absent from home, most of the time he's absent from home. Because it's either work, rugby, or I think the only time when he's home is when he brings his teams home. And I try to be the mother and I try to be the father. So I try to offer the two to my children. And straight after all those kind of living, then we got involved in the church. So the momentum is still the same, but the work is different. It was rugby, now it's the church. They take him away from home and going all over the place within Fiji. So I try, because I'm still trying to play the mother and father role here, to cut and lug my children. If he's preaching in South Savo for that week, for that evangelism, I'll fly our family to South Savo. If he's in Kandavo, I'll fly myself to Kandavo with my children. I fly ourselves to Lambasa, wherever he is. If he's in Tailevu, we'll fly to Suva. Just so my children can see him in the weekend, or they can know that that's their father. And as much as I was doing that, thinking that my children are good, because we don't talk about it. We just continue living. And not until on the 16th birthday, when we celebrated, it was because we used to have our service down here at Albert Park, on the old Albert Park setup. And we had I think it was a dinner. We had a dinner with just friends and mission team, and yeah, just a small one. And after we blew the cake and everything, so time was given for him to stand and say anything. When he stood, he acknowledged his mom and his sisters, and then he looked at his dad. I will never forget that moment. That I didn't really catch during the time he was growing up. I was oblivious to the fact, thinking that I was able to do that. But this is coming out from the mouth of the baby, you know. He looked at his dad and he says, he talked about me and the things that I do. He looked at all his sisters with all the things that they do to him, acknowledging them. Then he looked at his dad and he said, oh, for my dad, I don't really know my dad. Man, that hurts. For me, sitting from where I'm sitting, that really hurts. And he looked at him and said, I don't really know my dad. Because most of the time, he's not at home. And that stays with me. It really does. And that is why, like when we're having this conversation, when we are sharing things from the family table talk, and I guess because he was busy doing the things of God, it's well justified, it's valid. Things he was doing was valid. But how do you explain those things to your children? So you may be exposed doing the same thing, being away from home, being the absent father or absent mother. They're always traveling. At one stage, I was an absent mother, because when he moved to Suva, my work at one time, I think it was for about 2 years, it's always traveling. Check this, check that, and I'm always on the flight, turnaround flight or layover. So I try as much when I do those flights, I take them with me. Even if I take them, leave them, and if I'm doing some work in the airport, I'll put them somewhere there, buy their food, and I'll tell them, okay, I'll be out for 1 hour, I'll be out for 2 hours, wait for me here. And I'll bring them back with me. So I'll try and make it work. What I'm trying to share here, that there are things that we are doing, it's correct. We are going to work, it's correct. We are going to church. We actually lead a church. We go to church. It's correct. Everything is it's validated. But we always fail to stand back and see the effects of what we are doing, how it's affecting our family, and how it's affecting our children, and also how it's affecting our relationship with each other. We had a very good trust towards one another. We had a very good, I could say, a very good foundation of our love with each other. And regardless where he goes, regardless of what he does, I'll always believe him. I always trust him. And when he's away from home for weeks, I'll always trust him. Yeah, it's not a perfect marriage. We have our weaknesses. We have things that we've done that we regretted that we shouldn't have done. We are not perfect, but we somehow we manage to we manage to come through and work. Sometimes you feel so betrayed with everything and every effort that you put in, like it's unfair with all the things. And I'm sharing this because you listen to me today, and you may be saying to yourself, what I did is well justified. With everything that I've tried to make my marriage work, she doesn't do anything, or he doesn't do anything. He doesn't help to try and make it work. Yeah, it's